Hi, it's Kevin May, the Editor-in-Chief of FocusWire. We're here at the FocusWire studio in association with Pros. Delighted again, we've spoken before, or FocusWire has spoken to you before, Dee Waddell from the Global Managing Director, let me get this right, for Travel and Transportation at IBM. Thanks ever so much for joining us again, Dee.
So, great to be here.
So, when we spoke to you last year, there was a lot of discussion about blockchain, etc. Maybe we'll get onto that later, but do you have a particular thing that you're talking about at the moment, which is, this kind of broad idea that airlines need to kind of maximize one of their biggest resources, which is data. So talk to us kind of broadly, first of all, your kind of thinking around that, and then we'll see where we go from there.
Yeah. Well, let me just say, first of all, we're pleased to be here at the event.
Yeah.
We're a huge fan. We're glad to be, and we're proud to be a title sponsor here. We see wonderful clients as well as potential clients here as well, so it's a wonderful thing. A couple of things that I think we're excited to talk about here this time. Of course, data, but data is kind of a technology thing to some people. And one of the things we talked about earlier is about, it's not about the technology, it truly is about the industry. And even through IBM's transformation, we're really pivoting and focusing on the industry perspective and then bringing technology solutions along it. And I think if people come to our booth, you'll see that you've got general pieces around technology, but we also have specific real demos as it comes to real solutions for onboard staff, for customer experience pieces, and you'll see real pieces, which you may not always understand from IBM. But one of the things we see is around data. Clearly lots of data, whether it be for airplane, weather information, employee information, lots of different passenger information. How do you bring that together to maximize whatever the business objectives? So I know one of the things I'll be talking about tomorrow is particularly around AI and offer management. So what we've done is we call it a personalized pricing and offers. This is part of our IBM travel platform, which is kind of an ecosystem with partners. But what we've done is we've spun up now some airline-specific algorithms that ingests data from customers as well as other components, and then brings that in and gives propensities to say which clients would actually have the highest propensity to buy certain things, or a price, or a place. We're using that type of information through this. Now, we did win a World Travel Award last year as the top travel AI provider. The other is we've got 27 patents on this thing. It's brand new. I'll be announcing it tomorrow, so hopefully people will come to the keynote. Let's
dive in on that a little bit deeper then. So, it's taking data and you say the best offer and the right time. I mean, how difficult is that for an airline to kind of implement? Because, you do what you do, but they are connected to so many other different parts within the ecosystem. Can you just turn up and say, okay, plug this in and it'll be great? Or is it take a little bit more work with all those other partners at the same time?
Yeah, let me be straight on it.
Yeah.
So access to data is a critical component to this. So I can't underestimate how important it is from an IT perspective. We call it the information architecture. To know where your data is, how do you bring that in? Do you have access to all of the various aspects, whether it be activities or even typical things in your database, name, travel history, things like that. But access to data is very important because the better the data, the better the outcome through the AI algorithms. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So as a part of that, with our launch partner, which is Malaysia Airlines, they're going to be on stage. Pete from Malaysia is going to be on stage with, he's the Chief Digital Officer over there. Great person. We've been working with them over the past year. We've done a few different tests with them, specifically about how do I fill up the airplanes and how do I drive higher revenue, but also higher quality revenue. For instance, like business class bookings direct. So we've tried to come up, and to answer your question, you can't just plug it in, throw data at it, and it'll give you the outcome. What you need to do is be very specific about your objectives. Try to understand which are the data, and work with us to say which of the data will drive that. Put the data in, test the outcome. Does it work? Does it not? Adjust, learn. That's really the methodology.
So it sounds like that's, as you say, you can't just plug it in and it goes. So I mean, how long from start to finish is it taking an airline like Malaysia to kind of, I don't know if it is a massive change in how they do things, but to implement what you're doing for them? Is it a long process?
No. So interestingly, I mean, this was, and this was like a 6, 8, 10-week process to get in, get access to some of the data, put it through the algorithms, figure out which of the area, but it was pretty clear. We started small. We started in some email campaigns in particular. We then helped them through that, and I'll give some stats tomorrow. I won't give them here, but I mean, seriously, upload of revenue. I mean, we're talking 40+%. That blew us all away.
Yeah.
But that was what we did. We started small, quick, in an agile fashion, showed real benefit, moved to the next one, showed even just as similar on a broader scale. And then frankly, I know that on the test, the third test, they were like, I don't want to hold back on the control group because the revenue impact was pretty big.
Yep.
So they said, let's limit the control group down to like 10% rather than a 50% because they wanted the revenue from everything else.
Right.
So it was really good.
So one of the other things that you've been discussing in the lead up to this is around organizational cultures within airlines. And I mean, airlines can either be seen as being quite old in the way they think about things, and some are arguably a little bit more, I don't know, forward thinking. How do you kind of tackle that to make them, I mean, you said the word agile, and that's another word that's often associated with startup culture and stuff like that, which is another thing that you've been talking about. So
Sure.
Talk us through this kind of persuading airlines to behave like startups almost.
It's you know, it's been an interesting transformation because IBM is also going through a transformation like this as well,
Yep.
right? And you can argue that we've got some opportunities to continue to demonstrate our agility and this. So we've done massive investment in this, and we recognize that our clients need to move quick, that we need to move quick, and we're there. Let me give you an example. So in 2014, we partnered up with Apple. We were then established on a broad basis at IBM to develop business applications in the iOS platform. We're the exclusive partner on this. We drove this out, particularly in the airline industry, because things scale pretty easily because most of the airlines do similar processing. We went and created with our partners together, so kind of co-created applications specifically for onboard staff, and this primarily for employees. Pilots, so with Singapore Airlines, we've worked with them on developing a pilot application. With KLM around gates and turn in a station. We've worked with United Airlines with onboard about optimizing whether it be ordering, whether it be defect reporting. We've created these apps in conjunction with Apple, IBM, and let's say United or Singapore or KLM or Canada or Japan Airlines, whoever it may be.
Yep.
Together, we take management out, we empower these employees to say, here's some challenges, tell us your challenges. And we've taken a human perspective rather than a system perspective.
How does that work when you're taking management out though? Because that's often, some management might not like that idea.
You're right, but I think they realize that having experts in a non-threatening way, and this is part of the agile culture of a startup.
Yeah.
Management itself tends to be more controlling. Now, I've got my doctorate in management as well, so I understand that. But the fact is management has a core role to play. But I don't want to minimize the empowerment factor of going to an onboard flight attendant, asking them in a non-threatening way, tell us your challenges.
Yep.
How do we overcome? I'm going to invest in you. So they feel invested, they feel empowered, and it's amazing some of the solutions, and most importantly, the adoption rates that we've seen below anything else that we've seen out of the water. So it's been very exciting.
So the management role is actually when to know when to kind of just step back and
I think it is. And when they come back with ideas, support them.
Yeah.
Because our industry is just the sector. This comes from the World Travel and Tourism Councils. Roughly 10% of all jobs in the world are in the travel sector. We know that AI is not going to be replacing jobs in our industry. The flight attendants, so there's really a non-threatening environment where you can just be open. What are the problems? How do I solve them?
Yep.
And they appreciate investment, frankly.
Okay, so we spoke to you last year and a couple of articles as well, and for better or worse, blockchain was the basis for a lot of those conversations.
Sure.
I mean, just, you know, we're perhaps a year on from a lot of the, dare I say it, the hype that happened around blockchain in 2018, often driven by the likes of us in the press, unfortunately, sometimes. I mean, just give us your perspective finally, Dee, as to where we are with all that as a technology in and of itself and adoption in this industry.
Yeah, you know, as we talked about before we started, technology can sometimes override a business discussion.
Yeah.
Because we get so infatuated with, wow, the capabilities of the technology, we think that the technology name, like blockchain, can become the business outcome. And you're like, whoa, wait a minute here. It's all about the business outcome. So what we're seeing, to be very clear,
Yeah.
the benefits of in a digital environment, what blockchain brings is this trust level. And I won't go into the details, but it is about establishing trust in a digital world, which we don't all understand that, but it is a critical component that is lacked. One of the things we've been doing, even with Travelport, we've just announced this around commissions, is getting access to the booking that is the system of record that everybody understands to be the truth. That alone on a blockchain, let me just give simple, exposing that to travel agencies and so forth. This is the value of blockchain. So there's no debate of who booked what, thus you can calculate commissions.
Yeah.
And this goes back to reconciliation and other things we're very happy with what we've done in a real way with Travelport to then expand out a network. And that's a great example about just the booking data, which they have, of course, for their clients. And it's a great way to then pivot off of that for commissions, reconciliation, and so forth.
Yeah. Would you? I know I said finally, but I mean finally. Do you sense that it is now that we have these examples of the application of it, that now that the hype and the buzz has died down a little bit, that we are in that kind of, okay, let's see some real world stuff, and that kind of goes to your point, really, doesn't it?
I mean, this is your typical. I think Gartner calls it the hype cycle.
Yeah.
Same thing, you know, we get all excited, same thing with AI, same thing with cloud, and we start using the technology terms thinking it's going to magically come up with some great business benefit. What it takes though is a partner that can really focus on you, what are the key use cases we're doing, what's the value, how do I accelerate that, and working together to actually make it happen.
Great. Dee Woodell, thank you very much. Thank you. Great.
Is that good?
Thank you. Would you like to take your microphone off, sir?